To House Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
Nearly 3,800 incidents of anti-AAPI attacks in all 50 states have been reported over the past year. Businesses vandalized and seniors attacked, families in fear.
The bill assigns a point person at the Department of Justice to expedite the review of COVID-19 related hate crimes. The bill passed the Senate last month on a vote of 94-1. The president's declared the future is electric vehicles after touring a Michigan plant that makes them.
How are you today, Mr. President?
President Biden watching Ford union workers build the popular F-150 truck, but this one doesn't run on gas. He wants Congress to invest in all-electric vehicles, saying the question is
whether we'll build these vehicles and the batteries that go in them here in the United States or rely on other countries.
Building a national charging network is part of the president's infrastructure plan. Andy Field, ABC News, Washington.
A benchmark in the battle against COVID-19. 16 states reported no new deaths today from the virus. Death rates dropped 23% nationwide over the last 12 days. A North Carolina prosecutor says a state investigation found that last month's fatal shooting of a black man by sheriff's deputies was justified. DA Andrew Womble says no charges will be filed in the death of Andrew Brown Jr.
As tragic as this incident is with the loss of life, the deputies on scene were nonetheless justified in defending themselves from death or great bodily injury.
Brown jumped in his car attempting to leave the scene as deputies were executing search and arrest warrants against him. Brown's family has called his death an execution. Stocks closed lower, the Dow down more than 260 points. You're listening to ABC News.
From the KMET Weather Center for Beaumont, Banning, and the Pass area. This afternoon, we'll have an abundance of sunshine with temperatures near 80. Skies will be mainly clear tonight, low 54. For Wednesday, it's going to be sunny with a high of 82. For the Inland Empire this afternoon, we'll have sunny skies, temperatures near 80. Palm Springs, a sunny afternoon with a high of 98. I'm meteorologist Jim Rinaldi for Smart Talk 1490, KMET.
Take KMET 1490 AM with you everywhere you go by downloading our free smartphone apps found on the KMET website, KMET1490am.com. You can also go to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store on your phone to download the free app. Now you can listen live or play any of your favorite programmers' podcasts using your smartphone. Go to KMET1490am.com and download your free phone app today.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates. The WK Law Power Hour is here to take you from zero to hero in legal knowledge in 60 minutes. A law firm with 40 years of experience is ready to give you legal guidance you need for free. What could be better than that? Amazing stories about actual cases, interesting and informative guests. Listen, watch, call in. Come ready to learn. And now your host for WK Law Power Hour, Paul Wallin.
Hi, everybody. This is Paul Wallin. I'm the senior partner of Wallin Klarich, and we're about to go on a very exciting journey together. Legal knowledge is power. Most people don't have the power they need, and we're here to give it to you. I am 43 years now a lawyer. I know I will look way too young for that. I'm sure you'll say that. It's the hair, the teeth, the makeup, but I am old enough to have been a lawyer for 43 years. And I'm the senior partner of Wallin Klarich, and we represented people for 40 years. Everything, drunk driving, murder, robbery, family law, everything. We started in Orange County as a small law firm, and slowly over the years we built to a pretty damn large firm. And one of the greatest joys of my life is that my son, Matt Wallin, is a partner, and he started as a law clerk, and today he's going to be our first guest. And I'd like you to hear about the shows, the cases he handles, and everything else. Another great thing about this show is that this could be a podcast, because I'm going to be talking about some of the most serious murder cases and sex cases and major theft cases that we've handled, and the backstory that people always love to listen into podcasts. And I think some stories are absolutely amazing that you'd love to hear. The bottom line is we're here to provide you not just entertainment, but legal knowledge. And we like to say, we like to take you from zero to hero when it comes to legal knowledge. So just like a medical problem, when you don't have medical knowledge, you're at the whim of doctors and you don't know what in the hell to do. But with the law, it's the same thing. When you don't have legal knowledge, you get often taken advantage of. When you or a loved one, for example, is charged with a crime and you don't know what to do or who to hire, guess what it can cost you? Your freedom. Not knowing the elements of a crime, and the prosecutor does know the elements of the crime, that he has to prove, you can end up in jail just because you didn't have a competent lawyer. That's where law firms like Wallin Klarich come in, because we know the law and we know how to take on the DA. And it doesn't matter if it's a traffic ticket, it doesn't matter if it's a drunk driving. We just know this stuff. Not knowing what the law is pertaining to child custody, for example, can mean you won't have the right to make important decisions on behalf of your child when you divorce. What's more important than your children? Not knowing the law of custody means that you might lose primary legal custody of your child. So many times we get calls from people that have lost custody of their child because they didn't consult with a lawyer. At Wallin Klarich, you can call us anytime, and the consultation is free. Oh, great. Our first caller, this is exciting. Okay, Garrett, how can I help you?
Hey, Paul. Really good speaking with you. I had a question. So I sold one of my used cars to a friend for $9,500, and he didn't have enough money to pay me right away. So he gave me $1,000 down, and he signed a document saying he'd pay me the other $8,500 3 weeks ago, but he has not paid. And I already signed the title over to him, and the vehicle is registered in his name. Am I totally out of luck on that, or how can I get my money back? I know he has a job.
Well, first of all, I'm sorry that happened, but definitely you're not SOL. First of all, it's under $10,000. So in California, you can pay a small filing fee, which is like $30, to the small claims court, and you can serve him with a marshal. That'll cost you a little money, and you bring your documents to court. And once he's served, you don't have to have a lawyer. In fact, you can't have a lawyer. No lawyers are allowed in small claims court. And you can show the judge if the judge believes by 51% of the evidence that that man owes you the money, then the court will give you a judgment. And the question is, what can I do with that judgment to get the money if he doesn't pay me? Sometimes people say, well, it's not worth suing someone because you're not going to get the money back. Well, that's not necessarily true, because you can garnish that person's wages if you know where he works. You can, if he owns a business, you can ask the marshal to come in and take some of the stuff in his business. And if you don't know where he works, you can do what's called a judgment debtor exam, where you can serve him and he has to come to court. And they hate this. And they have to answer hundreds of questions by you. So you find out where he works, you find out where he banks. And ultimately, these people don't want to go through that stuff. And you might end up with a nice check for $9,500 from him just to get him off your back. Does that answer your question, Garrett?
Oh, wow, yeah, thank you. So it looks like I'll be able to get my money back as long as I can get him served.
Yes, and sometimes, obviously, you might even have to get an investigator, but obviously you all must have his address, etc. And now with social media, I think you have a great chance. Yeah, so don't give up, because people shouldn't be allowed to take advantage of other people like that. Does that make sense?
Thank you, Paul. It makes me feel so much better. Yeah, I'll have to maybe even issue you an email to try to get some more information, but thank you so much. It's amazing.
Sure. Great. No problem. What I was saying before the call came in is that you have to have your legal rights, whether you're a landlord or a tenant, either one. If you do not know your legal rights in California, you are going to be taken advantage of. Tenants that don't know their legal rights very often get ripped off of security deposits, because the landlords keep the security deposits when they do not have the right to keep them. On the other hand, landlords who don't know the law get taken advantage of by tenants who don't pay rent, and the landlords, either because they're soft-hearted or they don't know the law, they don't kick them out for months, and they lose a ton of money. I mean, there's so many examples. When you are buying a car, and just like what Garrett was talking about, and you are silly enough to not have a written contract, that can be very, 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 very bad. and not understanding the terms of a contract that you've entered into for any kind of contract, you're making a mistake. And here's the best one. When people say they don't have to have a contract because that's my buddy, that's the sentence of death. Because, of course, we know that so many friendships end up being destroyed over money because they just loan money to people with no contract, the person doesn't pay, and their friendship goes to blank. And that's just very uncool. So if you have any other questions at all, I want to give you some numbers. 951-922-3532. Let me say it again. 951-922-3522. That is the direct number you call today. And if there's time, you can be asked a question, and I'll be glad to answer it the best I can. But you can also email me directly at pjw@wklaw.com. Our websites are all start with WK Law, so easy to remember. If you have want to reach our firm, WK Law, but to reach me, pjw@wklaw.com. I'll read your question, and if I am not able to answer it during the show, number one, I might answer it next week, or I might answer it directly to you during the week from my email. That's number one. Another very important number to have, and this is very important. I have now about 50,000 followers, just about 50,000 on TikTok. And my TikTok followers will tell you how many questions, over 2,500 questions I've answered on TikTok. So if you go on TikTok, if you go to @BeachLawyerPaul, you can, number one, follow me, and then you can ask me any question you have. And if I can't answer it, I promise you I'll do my best to get you to someone who can answer it. Hi, Louie. How you doing? I just want you to know, before she says one word, I may cry. This is one of my most loyal supporters by far on
Paul,
TikTok.
this is
And
one of your,
yes, dear, how you doing? I haven't heard her voice. That's why I'm so excited. I only get emails from her.
I'm Louie
Yes,
on
dear.
TikTok, but I'm Tracy in real life. I have the crazy dog, King Louie, so that's what I go by.
Hi,
So,
Tracy.
Paul, I am one of your original first couple hours following you on TikTok, Beach Lawyer Paul. And I just want to say I love your TikToks, your positive words. I think you're truly a kind human that's on this earth. And you do a lot of good for a lot of people. And I'm just so happy for you.
I want you to know how much I love you. Thank you very much for saying that. And literally, this is not a joke. When someone asks a question to me on TikTok, I can rely on Louie to answer it better than I could before I do. So thank you very much for those kind words.
You rock this show and everyone. I just hope that you follow Beach Lawyer Paul on TikTok because he's probably going to be the next superstar. But don't forget me when you're famous, please, Paul.
Oh, I will never forget you, I swear. You're too great of a person.
Enjoy today and enjoy all of this.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you very much, dear.
Take care.
If you have a specific question, for example, about a DUI, please write this down, www.wklawdui.com. That website has hundreds and hundreds of pages of free information about how you can tackle a DUI. Of course, if you have a question about a DUI, you can call, you can reach me on TikTok, you can send an email. There's so many ways to get free legal help. And if you want to call our office, that's 877-4-NO-JAIL. How easy is that? 877-4-NO-JAIL. I think that this is an unbelievable. Okay, this is unbelievable, guys. I look forward to this for the longest time. I want you also to know this show is not going to be limited to these kind of legal questions. It's all going to be also be a conversation where we can talk about things like police misconduct and the George Floyd case and the Chauvin conviction of murder and what sentence he should have and should he face decades in prison or life. It's also going to be talking about things like CV-19 and can the government force you to take a vaccine? Should you? And what's going to happen if you don't take a vaccine in violation of the government policies? I'd love to hear your opinions about that as well. So I want you to enjoy the rest of the show. After the break, my son Matt Wallin's going to be on, and I'm very, very excited to have the joy to question him, because it's really something that I've always wanted to do. Okay, so now, when you get a call that a loved one has been arrested, most people have no idea what to do next. How do I get my loved one out of jail? Can I afford to get him out of jail? You will likely need a bail bondsman you can trust. I've known Harvey Sparber for over 30 years, and he's a guest later on this show. He's one of the most honest people I know. He's also a reliable and dependable bail bondsman. Harvey will speak to you with no financial obligation, and he'll go over all your options as to posting a bail. You can reach him at 800-890-0418. Again, 800-890-0418. Harvey will be there when you call in your time of need. That's for sure.
You've been charged with a crime, and now you're facing the loss of your freedom. Where do you turn to get out of jail or stay out of jail? The law offices of Wallin Klarich. Call 877-4-NO-JAIL. With over 20 years' experience and attorneys who work in your local courts, Wallin Klarich can make the difference between jail and freedom. When you need help, make one call. Make it to Wallin Klarich. 877-4-NO-JAIL. The call is free. Will you be?
Hey, are you okay to drive? Yeah, I'm fine.
17 to Central Jail. If you've been arrested for DUI and are facing DMV in court hearings, it could mean losing your license, your job, and even your freedom. But Wallin Klarich can help. Just call 877-4-NO-JAIL. With attorneys who know your local courts, Wallin Klarich can make the difference between jail and freedom. Call Wallin Klarich at 877-4-NO-JAIL. The call is free. Will you be?
When your children are taken by social workers, it may be the worst day of your life. When will I see my children again? Where are they going? How can I get them back? Who can I turn to for help to end this nightmare? The answers to all these questions are a phone call or email away. Wallin Klarich have been helping defend parents who are battling the system to regain custody of their children for 40 years. Many of their clients have done nothing wrong to warrant their children being taken from them. Other clients may regret some action that they've taken with their children. However, in every case, the clients desperately need their children back. That's where Wallin Klarich comes in. They know the dependency system. They will do all they can to work to try to get your children back with you. Take the first step and call Wallin Klarich now for a free phone consultation at 877-466-5245. That's 877-466-5245. Or visit wklaw.com to chat with us. They'll be there when you call.
If you are facing criminal charges, your entire future is at stake. You need to act now to protect your job, your family, and your freedom. Call Wallin Klarich at 877-4-NO-JAIL. Wallin Klarich has over 30 years of experience in fighting for our clients' rights. With local offices in Riverside and San Bernardino, we are here to help you now. Call 877-4-NO-JAIL or go to wklaw.com. How much is your freedom worth? Call 877-466-5245. The call is free. Will you be?
Check us out online at KMET1490am.com.
When you have a warrant, it's a very serious time in your life. When you drive a car, you have to be careful that you do not commit any sort of moving violation. You have to be looking over your shoulder, checking for police officers. Will you be stopped and thrown in jail? What a horrible feeling. For over 40 years, we've helped thousands of people resolve their problem with having a warrant for their arrest. In some cases, we can actually appear in court for you without you being present to recall the warrant.
It's two different
Depending
audios.
upon the facts of your case, you may never have to do 1 minute in jail. Stop living in fear. Call us now for a free
They're in two different
consultation at 877-4-NO-JAIL. That's 877-466-5245. Or go to wklaw.com. Isn't it time to get your life back? We will be there when you call. That's 877-4-NO-JAIL.
It'll stop in a second. It's just playing the ad.
So now, this may be the greatest pleasure I've had in many years of my life. I was present when this person came into the world. almost 4 decades ago. And now I have the opportunity to talk to him about his life. Hi, Matt.
Hey, Dad. How you doing?
Fine. I also, before we start, I want to say, how many people in life get the opportunity to work with their son? And how many people in life get to work with their son when you're both lawyers helping people every single day of your work life? So, Matt, can you tell us, first of all, how long you've been an attorney?
I've been an attorney for 12 years as of today.
Can you tell us what made you decide to become an attorney?
That's a difficult question to answer. I think that some of it had to do with your influence, maybe before I even remember. I'm hearing my feedback in the headphones, so it's hard to answer your questions. 1 second.
That's okay. This is the first show, guys. If we didn't have a few mess ups, it wouldn't be normal. He's trying to figure out the feedback. Obviously you can't hear me now. While he's figuring that out, let me tell you that Matt handles extremely serious cases, from murder to every other serious case where the clients are facing many, many years in prison. He handles them with tremendous professionalism, and from the first day to the last day, he keeps the client and the family informed of everything. He handles cases where people are facing life imprisonment, and some of the cases he handles can go from where the person's facing life imprisonment to much less. Many times people who come into our office come in because they think it's hopeless, and it's never hopeless. And sometimes the person's case has been going on for years and it looks hopeless, but then they come into our office and we do everything in our power to try to turn things around. Of course, it all depends on evidence. Most of the clients we represent have no criminal record. Occasionally they do. So obviously it's something that we want very, very much to help people that are accused of serious crimes, and that's why Matt is so good at it. Matt is my younger son. My older son is also a lawyer, and he's a couple years older than Matt, and he handles his own, he has his own law firm. He watched me, obviously, a couple years older than Matt, and he decided to go in another course, but he's still a lawyer, and he's a brilliant lawyer. His law firm's name is Wallin and Russell, and it's also in Orange County. And if you have a problem with a creditor where you're owed a lot of money, he's the guy you probably want to go to try to collect your money, but I'm talking about a lot of money. Matt started as a lawyer with us for several years. He started as a law clerk, and then he became a lawyer after, of course, passing the bar. And obviously, Matt had some struggles getting through, like most people do. Law school can be very difficult. Matt was extremely successful in high school as an athlete, and I think he would say that contributed to the success he had. Unfortunately, Matt is not, his headphone's not working. I'm not sure why, but I can wing it until his headphone is coming. Any event, Matt was extremely successful in high school basketball, and that got him to start about being, and then he got involved in other projects caring about people. And maybe this will work. Can you hear me now? Still not working. Matt also has become an expert while he's been at the firm at DMV matters. So if you have a DMV problem, then obviously he's the person you'd want to talk to. That means your license has been suspended because you have either lost your license because of a DUI, or you lost your license because some officer thinks you're too old to drive. That's probably the most important cases we handle. The senior citizens, the last thing they have in their life often is the ability to drive, so they can go to the doctor, they can go to the grocery store when they get older. And then if they get, even though they have had no tickets for many years, literally like 10 years, if they are seen driving too slow by an officer, or they get into a fender bender, often they get a letter from the DMV, which is to them the most terrifying letter they could get, saying, you cannot drive anymore. And that's just really, really unfortunate. But there's things that we can do for those people in most cases. So we tell people never to give up without fighting the DMV, especially if you have no other way to get around. You've got to get to your doctor, etc. At our law firm, just so you guys know, at our law firm, we have offices in Riverside and San Bernardino and Victorville. And why I'm identifying those is because this radio station you can hear on 1490 on the radio. In your car, you can hear driving around. And therefore, not only can you hear on Skype by going online, but you can hear just driving in your car. And we definitely want those people, if they have a legal problem, to call us at 877-4-NO-JAIL. And if in fact you have a question, that's where you can go to TikTok and just add me at, it's called @BeachLawyerPaul. And what I do is I'll take the most relevant questions and then I'll videotape the answer and then I'll post it. So that it's obviously a very common question, and then hundreds and hundreds of people can do it. And I think it's still not working, huh, Matt?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, you
Okay.
mentioned the DMV matters. What's interesting is I handle many criminal cases where my client's facing life imprisonment. And I also handle DMV matters where my client's facing losing their license for the remainder of their life. And they overlap in some ways in terms of their life is on the line. You know, someone's ability to drive is somehow related to someone's liberty or freedom. So it's a unique opportunity to be able to represent oftentimes the elderly who are just hanging on to their ability to drive. And now the DMV is trying to step in and take that from them. And at the same time, handle cases where my clients are facing incarceration due to a crime. So it's an interesting overlap between the two.
Can you give us an example, Matt, of a case you handled where the person was facing going to prison for many years and you took on the case and that changed the outcome?
Case recently I had was a 10-year-old alleged victim who had accused her stepfather of inappropriate touching. And again, if you look at the case from the outside looking in without the context, most people would say, why would a 10-year-old make up being touched by their stepfather? But what we were able to determine through the investigation was that there was an ongoing custody battle and that the alleged victim's hopes and desires were for her parents to get back together. That's her biological parents. She didn't want the stepfather to intervene or be in the family. So through the investigation and through the trial, ultimately facts came out that casted doubt on the accusations, and my client was found not guilty, which obviously was a huge relief for him and his family. And so that's one that comes to mind most recently.
So you had to go all the way to jury trial, and the 12 jurors who heard the evidence found him not guilty?
Right, because the sticking point in that case was, although we were given an offer, the offer was contingent upon A, pleading guilty, and B, lifetime sex registration. And considering my client's innocence and the fact that he made no admissions and that they had no real corroborative evidence, aside from one statement that was not recorded, this was the type of case that we had to take all the way to the box and litigate it, not just handle it in negotiations.
And when you say all the way to the box, just for people that don't get it, you mean to a jury trial, right?
Right. I mean, most cases, 95, 96% of cases don't see a jury, which means they resolve one way or another, normally by way of a plea. But yeah, when I say the box, I mean the jury box, which looks a little bit different now with COVID. There really isn't a jury box anymore because of social distancing. The jury is spread out throughout the courtroom. So it's really not a jury box, it's the whole courtroom, which has been strange.
What were the challenges that you had to face to get to where you are today, to get through law school, to get to where you are in terms of being a unbelievably brilliant criminal defense attorney? What were the main obstacles you had to overcome?
Reading comprehension, for one. A lot of reading goes into law school, a lot of things that occur in the first year of law school. It's almost like a hazing. None of it has anything to do with practicing law, being a good advocate or counselor. It's really about just weeding people out. So I struggled with the workload, the reading. But obviously I had the support of my family, you, my mom, sister, my brother, others that have been through it. So I had an idea of what the end game was. And I think that that's why I was able to work my way through it.
What do you find the most enjoyable thing about doing what you do for a living?
It's a great question. I think it's the interactions with the families, my clients and their families, in a time of need, and knowing that oftentimes I'm really the only person that can be there for them in the ways that they need. And I really try to empathize with what it's like being accused of a crime. And it can feel like the deck is stacked against you. So the best part is being able to step up and advocate for these people who need it.
I know you've had many cases where you've taken over cases from the public defender. And can you tell us what your experience is in many cases about maybe why a person might be better off with someone with our years of experience than a public defender?
It's another tough question. I have nothing but the utmost respect for public defenders. It's really a case-by-case analysis. There's not just one public defender, so it's hard to speak in blanket terms. I can just speak to my own efforts, and whenever I get a case, be it from a public defender or from another private attorney, I start from scratch because my work ethic on a case is second to none, and I can't just assume that the attorney who had it before me did much of anything. So I basically start over. So that's how I would answer that.
In my experience in reading studies, I think public defenders definitely try their hardest. But unfortunately, because of the system and the level of poverty in this country and in California, their caseloads can be overwhelming. And so, for example, a public defender, it could be Riverside, San Bernardino, and everyone could go online and type in caseloads of public defenders to have an understanding. But their caseloads can be 10, 20 times as great as our caseload, which means they could be handling on any given week 50 felonies, while our lawyers might be handling 5. Obviously, just like anything else in life, if you have more time to get to the bottom of a case and to prepare for a trial, when you have 5 cases a week, you're much more likely to be able to prepare than when you have 50 cases a week. So many times we get people calling us, asking us to please take the case from the public defender. And since we have financing for many cases, we're able to take cases from the public defender and have people sign up, they make a down payment and they make monthly payments, and we take over their case. The number of just very, very grateful clients that we have is overwhelming because we are a large firm. So we're not just in Orange County, we're not just in Riverside, we're all through Southern California, and we have outstanding lawyers in all of those areas. And that's something that is really important. Did we have a caller on the line? I think we did. Okay, so do you find, Matt, that working primarily, what courts do you primarily work in?
Really all Orange County courts, all the Riverside County, Los Angeles County. I even have cases beyond that, San Diego. But I would say Riverside and Orange County is probably my specialty.
Which is the county that you find to be the most difficult to resolve a case in, of the counties you have?
Riverside County is exceedingly difficult. Most of my cases are hard to resolve regardless, right? Because my client is, again, facing a life sentence. And if they're denying the accusations, it's hard to find the middle ground in any county. But Riverside seems to be the most difficult to get what I would call a reasonable offer.
Because you mean because the supervising DA has policies that certain cases they're not going to settle?
Yeah, sure. So the DAs I work with, even the highest up DAs, they're still answering to their supervisors. So these assistant or deputy DAs are really taking marching orders from their boss. And yes, I'm not in their meetings, but I can tell based on their offers or lack thereof that they have different policies with respect to how they deal with certain cases. And it's obviously very fact specific.
Okay. A lot of people call me and they're about to take the LSAT on TikTok. They question me and they're all freaked out. And I tell them, please don't freak out about the LSAT because it's not the law school you go to. It's what you want to do with your degree. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I agree 100%. You got to really see the big picture. Very rarely, if ever, have I ever been asked about the LSAT or really what law school I went to. I'm sure people look on the internet and such, but that just doesn't come up. And when you're in front of a jury, the jury's not asking where you went to law school or what your LSAT score was or wasn't. So it's a whole different skill set. So I wouldn't be all too concerned aside from doing the prep work that you need to do well.
Great. Well, Matt, I wanted to thank you very much for coming on the show. I'm proud of you as your business partner. I'm extremely proud of you as your father. If I had thought that when you were 7 years old, kicking all over the house and not being able to be controlled, that you would be a lawyer, I would have bet my life against it. But you have proved everyone wrong, and you are one of the best lawyers in all of California. And I'm just blessed to have you as a father.
Appreciate it, Dad.
Sure. Okay, so now we're going to a commercial break, and then we'll be back with Harvey Sparber, one of the best bail bondsmen in California.
You've been charged with a crime, and now you're facing the loss of your freedom. Where do you turn to get out of jail or stay out of jail? The law offices of Wallin Klarich. Call 877-4-NO-JAIL. With over 20 years' experience and attorneys who work in your local courts, Wallin Klarich can make the difference between jail and freedom. When you need help, make one call. Make it to Wallin Klarich. 877-4-NO-JAIL. The call is free. Will you be?
When your children are taken by social workers, it may be the worst day of your life. When will I see my children again? Where are they going? How can I get them back? Who can I turn to for help to end this nightmare? The answers to all these questions are a phone call or email away. Wallin Klarich have been helping defend parents who are battling the system to regain custody of their children for 40 years. Many of their clients have done nothing wrong to warrant their children being taken from them. Other clients may regret some action that they've taken with their children. However, in every case, the clients desperately need their children back. That's where Wallin Klarich comes in. They know the dependency system. They will do all they can to work to try to get your children back with you. Take the first step and call Wallin Klarich now for a free phone consultation at 877-466-5245. That's 877-466-5245. Or visit wklaw.com to chat with us. They'll be there when you call.
Hey, are you okay to drive? Yeah, I'm fine.
17 to Central Jail.
If you've been arrested for DUI and are facing DMV in court hearings, it could mean losing your license, your job, and even your freedom. But Wallin Klarich can help. Just call 877-4-NO-JAIL. With attorneys who know your local courts, Wallin Klarich can make the difference between jail and freedom. Call Wallin Klarich at 877-4-NO-JAIL. The call is free. Will you be?
When you are facing a serious criminal charge, it means you may be looking at many years in prison or doing up to 1 year in county jail. Most people do not know who to turn to in their time of need for expert legal guidance. What you do next can make the difference between ending up in prison for many years or having your charges dismissed and you going free. At this very critical time in your life, you need Wallin Klarich fighting for you. Wallin Klarich has 40 years of criminal defense experience, and they work very hard to do all they can to win their clients' cases. Wallin Klarich has a team of 10 criminal defense lawyers fighting for their clients every day. They help people with cases pending throughout California. They successfully defend cases dealing with murder, sex crimes, all felonies, as well as misdemeanors. Check out wklaw.com for some real client success stories. They offer a free phone consultation to answer your questions. Call them toll-free at 877-4-NO-JAIL. That's 877-4-NO-JAIL. They will be there when you call.
If you are facing criminal charges, your entire future is at stake. You need to act now to protect your job, your family, and your freedom. Call Wallin Klarich at 877-4-NO-JAIL. Wallin Klarich has over 30 years of experience in fighting for our clients' rights. With local offices in Riverside and San Bernardino, we are here to help you now. Call 877-4-NO-JAIL or go to wklaw.com. How much is your freedom worth? Call 877-466-5245. The call is free. Will you be?
When you get a call that a loved one has been arrested, most people have no idea what to do next. How do I get my loved one out of jail? Can I afford to do so? You will likely need a bail bondsman you can trust. I have known Harvey Sparber for over 30 years. He's one of the most honest people I know. He's also a reliable and dependable bondsman. Harvey will speak to you with no financial obligation, and he will go over all your options as to the posting of bail. You can reach him at 800-890-0418. That's 800-890-0418. Harvey will be there when you call in your time of need. And more importantly, Harvey's here in your time of need right now, because Harvey Sparber is my guest for the next segment of this show. And he's my guest because I've known him for a tremendous amount of years, more than we want to talk about. And I want Harvey first to introduce himself. Hi, Harvey.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me, Paul.
No problem. Harvey wasn't a bail bondsman his whole life, and he's going to tell you a story of how his life changed and he became a bail bondsman, because it's a story of inspiration, and you'll hear why. Go ahead, Harvey. Just tell him.
I had been in the clothing industry for some 30 years, and aspect of the clothing business that I was in was going overseas, and I chose not to do it. So I was taking a walk one day in my neighborhood, and I ran into a friend of mine. And my friend knew that I was somewhat of a nocturnal person. I'm up all hours of the night. And I was walking with this friend, and this friend said to me, you would be a good bail bondsman. We deal with bail bondsmen, and you would be pretty good at it. So I took that friend's advice, and that friend ended up being Paul Wallin, and the rest is history. I've been a bail bondsman since 2006. This is my 15th year. I helped Paul with some of his cases, as well as many other attorneys in Southern California.
One of the reasons that I thought Harvey would be a great bail bondsman is because, knowing Harvey, he told me that when we would talk about grocery prices, he would tell me that one of his greatest pleasures is going to the grocery store at like 10 o'clock at night. And I said, that's perfect. That's bail bondsman hours. And obviously Harvey didn't know anything about it. And more importantly, he had to work his butt off, because you just don't become a bail bondsman. But what's so inspirational about the story is that you do not have to get stuck in one profession the rest of your life. When you don't like your profession, or when you get laid off, or when things just change, you've got to take risks. And Harvey took a major risk, and it's paid off. And let me tell you one most important thing before I ask you any more questions. I've dealt with bail bondsmen my entire career, 40-some years. Some bail bondsmen are sort of jerks. Some bail bondsmen are hard to get a hold of. And when you have a client who's in jail and his mom and dad are hysterical because he needs to be at work tomorrow or whatever reason, the tremendous benefit of being able to call a bail bondsman and say, hey, can you talk to these people and see if you can bail their loved one out? And then as a lawyer, you can go back to sleep and wake up in the morning and get an email, hey, he's out of jail. I mean, can you imagine how great that is for you as a lawyer, for the family? It's just fantastic. So Harvey, why is it important to call a bondsman when a person's been arrested?
Well, if the person can tell me information such as who arrested, what police department, or at least where they were arrested, I can do some investigation, get the information to the family, and at that point, let them make a decision. Often attorneys like to have their clients out and free, so they present themselves a little better in court versus going with an orange jumpsuit on.
That's why. How does someone use a bondsman to post bail?
They would call me, give me the information. I look it up, I get back to them and tell them how much the bond is. We take a percentage of the bond. If it's an attorney referral, we're allowed to reduce the bail from 10% to 8%. I tell them what they would owe me, and I would do the process of getting that person released as soon as I can.
So what steps, though, to decide whether or not you're able to bail someone out, what do you have to know?
I like to know the background. I like to know if the individual has a history, maybe if there's somewhat of a history of failure to appear in court. That's something I have to look out for. I also have to look out for the amount of the bond and make sure, in some cases, when the bonds are a little larger,
that I have them collateralized, which means if that person decides to run on me, I have something to fall back on to recoup the money that it's going to cost me.
So let's say the bail is $100,000, and let's say you bail the person out and the court date, say, on June 5th, and let's say the person doesn't show up. What do you do, first of all, when the person doesn't show up on June 5th?
I have a warrant would be issued for that person. I have 180 days to bring that person back to the court. If I'm close to bringing them back, I can file a motion and get an additional 180 days to bring them back to court. If I bring them back to court, I can get the bond exonerated and I'm free and clear. If I don't bring them back to court, I'm responsible for the amount of the bond, not the premium they paid me, but the full amount of the bond.
So you have to pay $100,000 to the court?
I try not to, but in some cases, yes. And I like to get collateral, meaning I like to put a lien on a home or something to that effect. So if he does this or she decides to run, I at least have myself covered on the back end.
Do you have to, when you're posting a bail and making the decision, say on a bail of $250,000, since there's so much money at stake, do you have to get permission from someone other than yourself?
Not on $250,000, but on $500,000 or more, I do.
And who do you have to, can you explain who you have to get that permission from and how it works?
I actually get my bonds from a surety company, which is somewhat, for lack of a better word, it's an insurance company, but not insurance in the true way that most people understand it. I'm still responsible for the money value of that bond. I call these people, I say, okay, here's what I have. I have full collateral. I have full payment of premium. The bond looks good to me. He doesn't seem to be a flight risk. I want to take that bond. And they think it over and look at all the paperwork that I've supplied them with. And at that point, they make a decision.
But if the bail's $200,000 or $240,000, you're just gambling on your own.
I have the authority to write that type of bail myself, yes.
Okay, I just had a question from TikTok. What do you think? Oh, okay. 1 second, Melanie. What do you think of Dog the Bounty Hunter? Do you know who that is?
You're asking me, Paul?
Yes, that's what he's asking.
I've actually met Dog a few times. He's a showman. Right. Is what he is. He's a showman.
Okay, so we have who's on the line? Hi, Melanie. How can we help you, dear?
Hi, I just had a question for you. My question is, if someone gets pulled over for a DUI, what should they tell the cops about how much they had to drink? And what tests should they or should they not take?
Okay, that's a great question. If you'll just hold on literally can you just hold on for a couple minutes after after Harvey's done, and I will answer your question? Because it's a very good question. Okay? Okay, Harvey, can you tell me, it's just a couple minutes more with Harvey. Harvey, is there some times where your premium, let's say if the bail is $200,000, the person would have to pay like $20,000, but if we refer you, they save like $4,000. They still have to pay you $16,000.
That's
but what if they don't have $16,000? Would you take payment sometimes?
I take a payment plan. I usually like to have the payments all done within a 6-month period. But yeah, I'm willing to take payments.
Okay, and am I right? How do you make sure that you get the payments? What is your collateral?
I would, in that case, on a bail of that nature, I would hopefully be able to take and secure somewhat of a lien on a piece of property that has $250,000 worth of collateral in it.
But what happens if the person doesn't pay you, and can you take the person and put his butt back in jail?
If the person doesn't pay me for the premium,
yes,
it gets tricky. The bottom line is yes, but it's very tricky at times.
So sometimes you can and sometimes you can't.
Right.
Have you ever had a situation where you had to like hire a bounty hunter or do other kind of crazy things to find people?
A few different times. I've lost a couple of bonds. I had a few people that didn't show up and I couldn't find them. And I had a major one that I had good collateral on it and we were able to cash in on it and pay the bond in full. That was a large bond.
And how does it work in terms of like, Do you have to have like some kind of fund with the insurance company in case
Yes,
the
it's
person
called,
runs? How does that work?
there's a fund called a BUF fund, which stands for Build Up Fund. For every bail that I write, I have to put money aside that is I send to the bail company, and they keep a fund for me, and it builds up yearly. And that money is really, it's my money that I pay taxes on every year, but it's there in case I do have a case that I can't find the individual, they get to pull the money right from that fund.
I see. So overall, if you had to rate from 1 to 10, your happiness level professionally as a bondsman versus what you did before, what would you say?
This is an 11.
So you like it that much?
Oh, I like it a lot.
I don't want to get
I find it very interesting. No 2 days are ever the same.
Okay. Harvey, can you listen to these questions? You don't
Sure.
mind?
Sure.
Okay. So I'm sorry, what was the name of the first person? Okay, Melanie, and your question was, if you get stopped for a DUI, what should you answer if the officer says how much you had to drink?
Yes.
Okay. The officer is there to get evidence of your intoxication. So if you have been drinking and the officer asks you if you've been drinking, my best advice in California is to say to the officer, and be very pleasant throughout the whole time. Officers are just doing their job. You say, officer, my lawyer told me I should never answer that question. That will piss off the officer, but that they will use whatever you say against them, and you don't want to give them evidence. And I think did you say if you should take the field sobriety test or not?
Yeah.
Okay. Again, the officer is there to see if you're drunk. If you've been drinking, he's going to look at every situation to try to get evidence of you being intoxicated. This field sobriety thing where you walk a line, finger to nose, they're just looking for evidence against you. So why would you give them evidence against you? The officer has to have probable cause to arrest you. If you don't admit to drinking and you do not do the field sobriety test and your driving was okay, he may have to let you go. But if you take a field sobriety test and he goes, oh, she walked, she slipped, she didn't count the alphabet right, he could make to arrest you. So normally, every case is different, but in California, my advice is not to take a field sobriety test, but do it with a smile on your face, because the officer is going to be doubly pissed at that point. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much for your question,
right.
dear. And
Thank you so
who's
much.
the next person? No problem. Laura, how can I help you, dear?
Hi, Paul. So I'm asking for a friend.
Laura, are you there?
Say hello. Hello.
Hi. Hello, Laura.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can.
Perfect. So I'm asking for a friend. Say I was recently arrested for felony burglary. Should I hire a private lawyer or ask for a public defender?
Okay. Well, we discussed this with my son. If you have an option and you're not indigent, my strong suggestion is you look for an experienced criminal defense firm. Historically, private criminal lawyers who have experience will have lower caseloads, and you'll want to check out their rating on things like avvo.com, avvo.com, and Google and other things. But if it's a large criminal defense firm who's been doing it for many years, you can guess very strongly that they know what in the heck they're doing. The public defender, they have great lawyers, but sometimes their caseloads are overwhelming, and sometimes it's very difficult to see them, especially during a pandemic. So that would be my best advice to you, dear.
So you would be able to take my case? I mean, my friend's case.
It depends on where the case is, but if it's in Southern California, certainly. Call us at 877-4-NO-JAIL or go to www.wklaw.com, and we'll be more than happy to help you.
Awesome. Thank you, Attorney Paul.
Oh, you're very welcome. Harvey, I wanted to thank you very much for coming on. I want to wish you the very best of luck. You have an extremely interesting job. We've shared some unbelievable stories, and I'd like you to come back sometime and talk about the case where you had to chase the person all the way to Oregon. That was a very interesting case.
It was my pleasure to be here. I look forward to seeing you again.
Okay. I want everyone who's listening, this is our first show. I want you to know the knowledge that you are going to be able to get from this show, as well as the interesting stories that we'll be able to tell you about very serious cases, are things that I assure you're going to want to know. I hope you enjoyed this show. Our general belief is that everyone is presumed innocent, and you can go from zero to hero in legal knowledge and share it with your friends so you don't get cheated in legal situations. We'll be there for you when you call. That's wklaw.com, and on TikTok at beachlawyer.paul. We'll be there to help you. And I want you to have a great week and come back next Tuesday at 3 p.m.
Wallin Klarich Law hopes that you learned something about the law today. Knowing your legal rights is critical in 2021. Come back next week for more WK Legal Power Hour at 3 o'clock p.m. Pacific Time on Tuesdays. You can visit www.wklaw.com for thousands of pages of free legal information, or email the firm at pjw@wklaw.com. Wallin and Klarich will do their best to provide you with legal guidance or try to point you to the proper direction. That's pjw@wklaw.com. The show is podcast and is available on WK's KMET programmer page. Until next week, be safe.